I got the violation expectancy theory. This theory was founded by theorist Judy K. Burgoon in 1978, and it sprouted from the uncertainty reduction theory. Judy was one of the most productive communications authors in the 20th century, so she was very credible and knew a lot about communications, so this theory was formed well around communications. What this theory is when we're communicating with other people, when we say something, we expect them to react in a certain way, whether that be non-verbally or verbally. We're going to expect them to react, but when they react back in a way that violates this or is not what we expected, then this theory comes into play because they're violating our expectations within communication. So there's both nonverbal and verbal communication pieces and aspects to this theory. Nonverbal communication includes gestures, eye contact, touch, posture, facial expressions, or body movement. For gestures, it could be something like putting up your hand like this, and that would mean stop, but you're not actually saying those words. It's just communicating that through your actions. Eye contact, if we're keeping eye contact with someone, that might mean that we respect them or that we're paying attention. But if we're not, that probably means that we're disengaged or don't respect the person that we're talking to. For touch, that goes along with space. So if we keep going closer to someone, that might mean that we're comfortable around them. If we're going further away, it can mean that we want the conversation to end or that we're uncomfortable. Touch, if we were to put our hand on somebody's shoulder, that could mean that we're comforting them or that we're sorry and are empathizing with them, but we're not physically saying that. Posture, if we're slouching, then we're probably sad or upset or we don't care about what's happening. But if we're standing up straight and have good posture, we're caring about what's around us and we're more likely to be happy. Facial expressions, we have smiling or frowning as examples. Smiling obviously means that you're happy, and frowning most likely means that you're sad. For body movement, you could be bouncing your leg, and that could be a sign of you communicating that you're anxious or that you have a lot of energy or anything like that. So through nonverbal communication, you're basically just speaking to someone without actually speaking, but through your actions. As an example, I could tell my friend that I can no longer hang out with them when we had previously made plans to hang out, and I would expect them to start slouching and frowning because they're upset with me that we can no longer hang out. But instead, they smile and start jumping. This would be a violation of my expectations, which would be this theory in play. So they're going against or violating the expectations that I had for the way that they're going to react back to what I said to them. With this is verbal communication. So verbal communication is the actual sounds that we're making to communicate. This can be words or even just like sighing or groaning or anything like that. So it's the sounds that we're making to communicate something rather than the actions, which were nonverbal. With the same example, when I tell my friend that I can no longer hang out, I'd expect them to say, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?" But instead they say, "That's okay, I had other plans anyways." This would be violating my expectations again, but in a verbal way. So actually using sound and exploring this theory in that way. This theory is realistic because of all the uncontrollable factors that are within it. So expectations, reactions, and communication are all uncontrollable or very hard to control. So for communication, it is very unlikely that you're going to go throughout your day without communicating to someone at all. And within that communication, either unintentionally or intentionally, you're going to have expectations for the way that they're going to react. You're going to be like, oh, they're probably going to yell at me because maybe they yelled at you the day before, or it's something that you've been taught as a kid is like when you disappoint someone, then they're going to either be upset or yell at you or anything like that. And reactions are very hard to control as well, whether it be a very minor reaction like raising your eyebrows when something surprises you, or just saying okay back. You're always going to react in some kind of way when someone is communicating with you, most likely. So all these factors have to come into play at one point in your day. So this theory plays out, and all that really has to happen within these factors is the violation of our expectations. So there's multiple chances throughout our day that these are going to happen. But at one point, someone's most likely going to violate what your expectations were, because I don't think you're ever going to be right 100% of the time. Practical, it's applicable, and I've even used it today and every other day that I can think back to since I started researching this. So it's applicable in our lives because, again, it's like realistic and we can't control those factors. So you can think back to any of your days and likely you expected someone to act in a way and they didn't act in that way because they violated your expectations. The other day when I wrote this paper, we were sitting in class and this was my example from that day. I couldn't hear what the teacher was saying, and I turned to my sister and I was like, "Hey, Maddie, like, what do you say?" And she normally gets mad at me and yells at me, so I expected her to yell at me and be like, why don't you just listen? But instead, she turned and helped me and told me what he said. So this violated my expectations because I did not think that that was the way that she was going to react. For positive impacts on interpersonal communications, the field itself, it helps deepen our understanding and reaction in relationships in the way that those go hand in hand with communication. So for reaction, when our expectations are violated, we're going to either have like a positive or a negative reaction. So with my friend saying, that's okay, I had other plans anyways, I might be it might be a positive reaction because I'm like, oh, at least they're not mad at me. But it might be a negative reaction because now I think that they didn't want to hang out with me in the first place and they don't like me anymore. But with this goes relationships. So with the positive and negative reaction to this communication and this theory, it can be based on your relationships, because if I were to meet some random person and I made an expectation on the way that they're going to react and they violated that, I'm not going to be too upset about it because I don't know them well and it doesn't really impact me. But say with my best friend, I might have a negative reaction and it might impact that whole conversation as a whole because I thought I knew them well, but now it's going against what I thought I knew. And yeah, so it's basically like my friend went against something that I thought I knew well about them, or it seems like they don't want to hang out with me anymore. So the depth of that relationship kind of impacts the way that we view the conversation as a whole and the reaction we have to the conversation, as well as deepening our understanding with verbal and nonverbal communication. Here's a video example of a real life situation that this theory takes place.
This is awkward. Not this again. This hallway is so long. I'll just look at my phone for a little bit. Don't make eye contact yet. Dang it, way too soon. Look away, look away. Do I say something? Do I just nod? She looks nice. I'll say hey. This feels like a good distance.
Hey, how are you? I hate going through those awkward situations in Byram every day. I totally expect her to say hey back, but she completely ignored me. Have you ever thought about why people are rude like that sometimes? Expectancy violation theory could tell us a lot about that.
As seen in the video, the guy walking down the hallway said, "Hey, how are you?" to the girl that he was walking past, and he expected her to say hi back or say anything, but instead she just walked past without saying a word. So this violated his expectations verbally because he expected her to say something back, but instead she didn't. So this was violating his expectations of their communication and their conversation.